Welcome to The Leads Are Shit. This is a real estate magazine podcast where we are here with the owner of Real Estate Magazine, Andrew Fogliato. Don't do the G. The G is
Yeah.
silent.
Is this your
Shouldn't get
first
that
time
wrong
doing that
anymore.
intro?
Yeah, I know. I don't even know
You'd
where I
think
went with that.
so.
Yeah. I think it's because of when I text you, that's how I type. I do FOG.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
you.
that's fair. It's
But
okay.
anyway,
I'll forgive
Andrew
you.
Fogliato, also the founder of Just Sell Homes, a marketing company so that real estate agents can just sell homes. My name is Taylor. I'm here from Edmonton, Alberta. I'm a team leader and an industry nerd, and I like to talk about sales and marketing. That's what we do here on The Leads Are Shit, where we have brought in a special guest, and his name is Braden Wheatcroft. Braden is the broker and owner of Real Estate Camison, and you have several offices on Vancouver Island.
Sorry, is that a question or an intro?
Kind of.
Yes. Yeah, just say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Hi, I'm Braden Wheatcroft. Oh, Siri's talking. Broker owner of Remax Camosa in Victoria, 5 office locations in southern Vancouver Island, and our sister company or brother company or whatever you want to call it, Remax Professionals in Nanaimo. And proud to say by the end of this year, I'll be a decade coaching for Mr. Richard Robbins.
And that's where we ended up meeting.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think
uh,
Andrew too.
yeah. Because I got into coaching like 11 months into my real estate career.
Wow, that's what, who gave you the nudge to do that? Because that to me seems like a very courageous thing to do 11 months into the business.
Well, it was kind of weirder than that, I think, actually, because by 11 months in the business, I'd already sold 32 houses.
Right. So based off
Most people go to
the average
coaching.
progression, you were already like a 6-year agent. So it was like natural time. You're like, oh, I got to get into coaching, obviously.
That's a good
Yeah,
way to look
this
at it.
actually, I'm curious, what would be the average number of transactions, not time in business, the average number of transactions till someone hires a coach? I
Hmm.
bet that'd be a really good data point.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting
Oh,
when I,
like how far along they are in their career.
Yeah, like not timeline, but houses sold. I bet there's probably a stronger correlation to houses sold than there is to time in business to hire a coach.
yeah,
I
that
thought it
always,
was like a wavelength.
yeah, maybe. I always think of
So,
it like
like,
I'm recruiting on behalf of a team. And there's a team member that's, or a potential team member, and they're thinking like, should I go on, or stay on my own, or join a team? And I got to pay half my commission to the team. The way I like to frame it, and of course it depends on where people are at in their careers, is that the money comes and goes out of your bank account. The thing that no one can take away is you get to keep 100% of the experience. And so when I was a 21-year-old realtor in 2009 in the recession on a team, my first 5 years, everyone asked me how long I had been doing the job, which really, let's be honest, was a nicer way of saying like, how old are you? Can I trust you? And so I didn't have this language the first year or two, but I eventually realized that what people are asking is like, am I experienced? And so I would frame it as like, so Taylor, if that's a fair question, you're probably actually wondering like how experienced I am. So I'm just curious, like, do you measure experience based on time or experiences?
mileage.
Usually they go, what's the difference? Like, and well, the average realtor in our board sells about 4 homes a year. And I've been very fortunate enough because of my team and my hard work that I've been helping. The first year was 12 and the next year was 16. So, relatively speaking, I have about 8 years worth of experience condensed into 2 years worth of time. So, if you were going in to get that dreaded root canal, would you rather have the dentist who's been a dentist for 20 years that does one root canal a year? Or would you rather have the person who's only 2 years doing it that does it routinely every week?
The other
And
line I
usually
like
that ended up,
is when someone's like, I've been in the industry 20 years, it's the like, do you have 20 years of experience or 1 year of experience repeated 19 times? Because you
totally.
get those people too, right? Like they never learned anything in those 20 years. They
No,
just
you can exist
keep doing,
for
yeah.
20 years,
Yeah.
right?
Just go through the motions.
I see
Uh,
it as like you come into your real estate career and things go well enough that you get to stay in the business,
mm,
right? And then most people, as they transition from their second to third year, it's jumping the chasm in real estate because if you cannot inspire strangers in the first meeting, by
mm.
the time you have sold and helped people buy and sell in your sphere, you're in trouble,
Yeah,
right?
honestly, Taylor,
And
I
when
see
they
that show up.
experience that dip, that's when they hire a coach.
I see that show up actually quite a bit earlier from the broker's perspective. So like I've been in the brokerage side of the business now for 11 years. October 2014 is when my partners purchased the brokerage and became part of the ownership group about 5 years ago. And so I've had the chance to onboard a lot of agents and help a lot of agents start their careers. And what I've observed in that time frame, and to put a number on it, like probably over 200 realtors I've helped launch their careers in the last decade. And I'm very proud of the fact to say that 7 out of 10 agents who started their careers with us are still in the business, which is almost the inverse of the 85% failure rate in 5 years. So strong starts is what we believe in. And one of the things that I think that helps people get on that trajectory is realizing the sophomore slump is real. Like your first year in real estate often can be better than your second year because you've been pre-marketing to everyone in your network while you're taking your license. You're telling everyone, hey, I'm gonna get my license, get my license. And like you already have people effectively like waiting for you. Like, oh yeah, well, Taylor or Andrew, as soon as you get your license, like I'll work with you. And so you kind of snap up all that low hanging fruit. And then the second year comes around and you realize, oh, yeah, everyone that I was kind of warming up for 18 months prior to getting licensed is come and gone. My bank account might be a little fuller than it was, but my pipeline's dry.
Or you don't realize that.
Or you say the leads are shit. Am I allowed to say that? Or do I have to like donate every time I say that or what?
I mean,
think
you can
that should
donate
be
it every
illegal.
time if you want, but
Yeah, we've yet to open
we'll
our
take it.
Patreon or any other way to accept money, but we will figure
Yeah.
it out.
And I just want to say
So I did
thank
just
you
join
for
the
having
Gary
me
Vee
on.
challenge.
Yeah.
Did you see
Say that
that?
again. Yeah, I
Did
did
you
on
see
Stan.
Yeah, I'd never heard of Stand. I bought it because I figured 8 weeks of coaching from Gary Vee, even if the software's terrible,
Oh, is
It's
this the
300
text message
bucks.
we got this morning?
It started last week, but basically it's like he clearly invested in a company that is kind of like Patreon in a way. It'd be like, but it'd be more like Shopify for creators
So
would
I've
probably
been
be the
using
best way to
Stan
describe it.
for a year and I love
Okay.
it.
Okay.
And they just added Stephen Bartlett from Diary of a CEO and then
Yep.
Gary Vee. And apparently they got 2 or 3 more heavies of these sort of entrepreneurial celebrity entrepreneurs that are investing in it. But it actually started as a link in bio. You know, the whole
Yeah.
what's the main one that everyone
Linktree.
uses?
Linktree,
Linktree.
yeah.
Yeah, it started as Linktree, and it's just it allows you to take payments in a variety of different ways. It actually has a learning management system in it. So if you have a course that you can have it on there. It's not really the best at anything, but it's pretty darn good at a lot of things. And so they even rolled in, ManyChat that does the text automations.
Yep.
They actually have an auto DM feature built into Stan. Again, it's not as robust as ManyChat, but it's
Yeah.
dollar for dollar. Like I'm crap. I should
Yeah.
drop my affiliate
Yeah.
link in the chat right now.
There you go.
I already signed up. So I did for
Find it
300
on my
bucks, you get
Amazon
8 weeks.
store.
Yeah.
Yeah,
300
yeah.
bucks is 8 weeks of coaching from Gary Vee and you get a year-long membership to Stan. So I was like, for 300 bucks, even if
Oh,
the program's terrible, I'd pay 300 bucks for a 1 hour Zoom for 8 weeks with
no,
Gary
it's
Vee.
awesome. It's
So, because
awesome.
he said he's getting way more tactical than his like online content, which is what I miss about him. Like when I used to follow him like 12 years ago, like the
Totally.
original Ask Gary Vee stuff, like you got real good tactical
100%.
insight.
I'm
Yeah.
definitely one of those people who had Gary Vee in my ears like
Yeah.
every day for probably about 3 years. And I don't know the day that I took the earbud out and was like, okay, Gary, like I've had
It's when
enough.
he
And
didn't shut up
it
about
wasn't
garage
because I didn't
sailing.
like him. Yeah, probably around the garage sailing era.
Yeah. I refer to it
It
as like
was.
graduated from Gary Vee.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's like he puts enough pressure on you to actually execute, and then once you finally go from 0 to 1, you start implementing. You're like, okay, I don't need the pressure on the
Yeah.
implementation piece
Yeah.
anymore. Yeah,
I've met him once and then I spoke to him on the phone, which ended up on Daily V once. But it was
cool.
like one of those ones where I had no knowledge the phone call was coming. And so he's like, "How's it going?" I was like, good." I'm like, "I wish I had been prepared for this call. I'd be much more insightful."
Did you
Made
did
more.
you crush it?
No, I did not crush that phone call. But I did I bought every book of his, but that is going off topic. But no, I think that program will be valuable. 8 weeks
Okay,
of just
I don't
learning
know if
from Gary.
you can tell this, but speaking of like actionable, I get so anxious when people are watching and we're not talking about like actionable things. I'm starting to get like sweaty palms. Should we like talk
Right.
about something tactical here, or what do you want to? How does this work?
Absolutely. I'm going to
Yeah.
turn the conversation that way once we welcome a couple of people that have joined us here. So we in the chat already have Leanne Chisholm from Edmonton, also Ron from Vancouver. Good to see you, Ron Clark. We've got some of our usual suspects here, like Anthony Brown, Craig Knopfley, and so that we know who you are and where you are from, like the Godlintons from Lethbridge.
Yep.
You are they
Got
Leth?
Rick Barry, John Barry.
Yeah,
Rick Barry,
yeah.
that's the
Deep, deep.
basketball player. We have
You
lots of
guys
people
can get in
here.
the chat, and if you're watching the recording of this, you can actually join the
Yeah. Show up
leadership
live next
live.
time.
Yeah, you can show up in our Zoom audience. That way, you get to engage people like Braden because he is ready for actionable content. And as somebody who has launched as many agents as you have, and as somebody who is like available as a coach, when you see someone that's coming to you right out of the gate, what things do you check for?
Mm. When you say right out of the gate, just to clarify, do you mean this is a person who's new to the industry, or is this is a person who's maybe been in the business for a while, but it's engaging me because they want to go from good to great?
More so that you're like a business doctor in real estate. When somebody comes in, my guess is that you check their cardio. Like you
Totally.
check a few
So
things there. What are you looking for right out of the
what if we
beginning?
do it this way?
Can I draw
Check
it?
Taylor. Let's say Taylor reached out to you to book a call. You have no history of Taylor before that call.
Absolutely. So I myself like to keep things simple, partly because I barely graduated high school. So the irony that I get paid for my brain to get picked is hilarious because please, I hope our audience doesn't judge me, but I'm pretty sure. Wait, does my grandma listen to this show?
Yes.
I'll block her if that
You
helps.
know what? She already knows. I smoked a lot of pot in high school, and I was not academically inclined. And but I've become a lifelong learner, and I've realized that like academics versus education are not necessarily one and the same. But for me, one of the things I love is making concepts as simple as possible because I think that that's where ideas become as accessible as possible. And so for me, when I draw this out, the very first thing I do with anybody when I sit down with them is talk about the 5 steps of a real estate business. Like literally, Taylor, the real estate business is only 5 things. That's it. We try to make it 5,000, but it's just 5 things. And so when we're making a list, we do what most people do when they write a list. We write it linearly, right? But what I actually try to get people to understand is these are actually 5 points on a flywheel. And each point, as you know, if you know anything about flywheels, each point leads into the next point, and each turn of the rotation should get easier and faster as we go. And so these things, again, it's nothing rocket science here, but sometimes we need the simplicity. It's lead gen, it's lead conversion. These are the things that we would look at, and there's measurables and milestones for each of these. There's client experience. And now you're going to see, oh, he was stoned in high school because I can't spell. Client experience, there's transaction management, and then there's post-sale service. That's it. And I know you guys are way smarter than me, so you'll point out all the blanks or the gaps in my thinking. But that is literally it as far as I can see. Everything else sort of nests into one of those points. And so this would be one of the things I'd ask Taylor. Taylor, how many days, weeks, months, years does it take for you to generate 10 leads? And to me, usually, Taylor, that conversation goes, well, what's a lead? And in my opinion, a lead is a name, number, email, and address of someone who's interested in buying or selling real estate. Now
It's
we're
a
in the future.
prospect, not a lead.
That's a prospect, not a lead.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Let's unpack it.
Okay. So let's say we run a What's My Home Worth campaign. You get 100 leads.
Uh-huh.
How many of those are planning to move? Maybe 10. It's 100 leads on prospects, right? So like you have to sort through because some people might just be getting divorced. Some people might be just trying to get like a tax assessment. Some might just be curious. I've had home eval leads that were people who just bought a house with another agent and were trying to use me to confirm that they didn't pay too much,
I
right? So
think
it's like,
we're more in alignment than you think because my textbook definition is a name, number, email, address of someone who's thinking about buying or selling real estate now or in the future. So if I get
yeah.
100 form signups, you're correct. and I would say I would agree with you that not all 100 are going to buy or sell a home now or in the future.
Yeah.
But to me, a lead is a name, number, email address, someone who's thinking about buying or selling real estate now or in the future. Like, do we have an alignment on that, or is there?
That's why.
I also think we mistake contacts. Like a contact could be like your bro from the gym. That's like, Andrew, you got your license, awesome. Like, I'd love to support you. But they're not thinking about buying or selling real estate. That's, at least in my mind, how I explain the difference. Like, that's a contact. Put them in your database, market to them, add value. They may very well become a lead in the future. But until they actually have expressed interest, I don't know that they're a lead, in my opinion.
Here's the thing, though, about real estate. Everyone's going to move at some point.
Yeah.
So as long as you have the context, they're a lead at some, like, it might be a lease, but like almost nobody stays their entire life in one home. So
Yeah,
For
I
sure.
think that this is actually being looked at from two different perspectives.
Yeah.
So what Andrew's client base is normally asking him for as a marketer is to prove intention.
Uh-huh.
So Andrew's saying, I have to take a couple more steps here before my clients will accept this
As a lead.
as a prospect.
See,
No, it's a lead until it shows intention. Is that what you're saying?
pretty much,
Andrew,
like, it's well, so I think a lead is just a lead on someone who might be, so like the what's my home worth? Those are leads on potential prospects, right? So like we're getting a group of people who might move. Instead of cold calling, we're narrowing our focus to there's more likely to be in this group a prospect. We figure out which ones those are, then you sell them on hiring you. Let's first identifying who they are.
well, and I think that what you're pointing to, Taylor, is I believe as an industry. So let's just use the home buying process as an example. I believe there's two very distinct steps or phases in the home buying process, and I call them the decision phase or the research phase. In my experience, this is not I can't back this number up, but just anecdotally, I think that 8 to 9 out of 10 people that you meet that are leads are in which of those two phases, the decision or the research? What do you think, Taylor?
research.
Yeah, right. To me, the litmus test is if I said, Andrew, if I showed you the perfect house in an ideal neighborhood at a great price, would you be ready to write a full price offer today? That's how we determine. Your answer is how I can determine whether or not you are in the research phase or the decision phase. Because, most people at face value would be like, well, why would you want me to write a full price offer? Hold on a second. Remember, I said the great house, ideal neighborhood, or perfect house, ideal neighborhood at a great price. I think anyone in the home buying process that was presented with those things would feel pretty good about writing an offer. But most people, when we talk to them, they're not in the decision phase. And I think that's one of the failures of our industry is we are incredibly well equipped to serve clients at a high level that are ready to make a decision today. I think where we fall short is anyone who's going to make that decision, like Andrew said, 6 months, 12 months, 24 months down the road. We label them in our CRM as tire kickers, looky-loos, energy vampires, what all of those things. And really, it's like that's actually a great client in 24 months from now. And
I want to this for a second.
Okay.
Because Andrew would call those marketing qualified leads.
Okay.
Right. And then when we apply sales tactics to them, because it's so disjointed, the salespeople would call them what you described, tire kickers and so on. And that in that moment is when people say, well, these leads are shit.
100%. So what I tell people is you actually need two different levels of service. Because if you deploy decision phase service to a research phase client, you will feel suffocating, tone deaf, pushy. You'll create friction and the brand experience for that client in the context where they're at. Because that's the thing to remember. It's not about your selling process, it's their buying process. You got to meet people where they're at. And I do believe if you do that, you can expedite their timeline. But if you also, the inverse is true. If you deploy research phase service to a decision phase client, they're going to think that you're aloof, that you're not in it to win it, that you have too many clients, you don't pay attention, or all you're doing is golfing all the time. And so that's where I feel like as quickly as possible, ideally in a consultation, if you can book one, you need to find out where people are at in that process so that you can explain to them the two phases, explain to them the two different levels of service, and then deploy the correct level of service to them with, check-ins throughout, I say, a calendar year to see whether or not they're ready to go from one to the next. So for example, where this really saves you, Taylor, is you have a client who you said, hey, if I showed you the perfect house in an ideal neighborhood at a great price, would you be ready to write today? And they go, oh no, like we gotta pay off some debt still, and our wedding's in 3 months, and we're waiting for some inheritance from the UK, and but like we want to kind of get the process started. That same client calls you on Thursday night at 9:30 p.m. because a listing came up that day and they want to see it on Friday morning. What's the problem with that scenario?
What happens when we take you to the house you want to buy?
And this is where sometimes I think you have to have the parent talk with them and say, hey, Taylor, I'm so happy that you saw this listing. Hey, when we had our buyer consultation and I asked you the question around perfect house, ideal neighborhood, great price, and you said no, and you had all of these reasons. I'm just curious, has anything changed in your financial picture or in everything you explained that would put you in a position tomorrow that if we went out and looked at it, that you'd be able to write an offer? Most of the time they say no. And that's where I would push them to one of our pre-scheduled research days to look at that property. Like, hey, we've got a research day coming up in 2 weeks. If that home's still available, why don't we schedule it? We'll be the first one we look at. And if it's available, great. But it sounds to me like you're not really in a position to buy that home. And so let's not act like you are effectively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's how you
and I was
manage
thinking about
clients,
I was
buyers.
I was thinking about applying that also on the marketing side and basically making content for people in the research phase and then inviting them to the portals that will take them to the decision phase. And those portals would be getting an official pre-approval, market evaluation on your current property so you can see how it all works together. But that's a lot of what I do in my business.
This is literally the diagram I would draw for my clients. Oops, except I am clearly decision, research. And I say to them, like, you start up here. And I think that's a guy wearing a kilt now that I look at it closely. And every time we go out on a research day, our goal is just to move down the funnel. So at the end of each appointment, Andrew, all I'm going to ask you is, based on what we've seen today, what can we eliminate from your criteria going forward? Right? I know I'm an RRI guy, but I heard Buffini say this first, and he's, that buying a home is not a process of selection; it's a process of elimination.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
But everybody approaches it as though it is a game of selection.
And Taylor, let me explain to you why this process is so important, because what I find is, and I'm like kind of in client speak right now, is like, usually around the 7 to 8 homes, the light bulb goes off and you're going to find out something that's really, really important. And that is whether or not your expectations and your budget are in alignment. And if they are, great, you're probably buying a home. And if you're not, no problem. We just might need to make an adjustment to either your budget to meet your expectations or your expectations to meet your budget. And it's usually never lowering your expectations, if we're being honest, right? And so walking them through that process, and like the idea would be like, so Taylor, when you walk through the front door of your future home, I want you to be an expert in your micro market. Like, I'm going to be an expert in all homes, but I want you to actually be an expert in the home that you're buying, so that when you see, and I always come back to the same language, the perfect house in the ideal neighborhood at a great price, you look at me and go, this is the one we want to write, and this is a great price.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't get back to the old what would I do with Taylor, but that's basically what, because we got stuck on the definition of a lead, which I love. But that
we never go on tangents here.
So I would measure this in hours, the question that you asked, like how long does it take for me to generate a lead? So we have a database entry approximately 100 times per month.
Right. Okay, cool. So the next step would be, and for the record, that's outstanding. And typically what would happen is most agents would say, well, I don't know how many days, weeks, months it would take. And that's the first assignment. Go and figure out, like Google, or like do a search in your inbox for your realtor.ca leads, your REM leads, your whatever leads you're buying, and figure out how long does it take you to get 10 leads? Because we need a number to baseline from. Ideally, I think that when we start running this model, which I'm going to show you at about 80% efficiency, 10 leads a month could work out to potentially like 2 deals a month when you start running it through. So, okay, great. You got a lead. Then how many of those leads end up becoming clients? Let's assume everyone does an exclusive buyer's agency agreement for a moment. I know in Alberta that's more common, but in other provinces, Ontario, BC, less so. But whether it's a listing agreement or a buyer agreement, how many of those leads become clients?
11%.
11%. Okay, great. And of those 11%, how many of those clients that you deploy your client experience to end up in the last milestone in this step is they have an accepted offer on a property and they're removing conditions on it? How many of those 11% do you think get to that point?
Of the 11 people that we take as clients?
Yeah.
All of them.
All of them. So 11 out of 11. Okay. I need to fly you to Victoria. I need to study you, because if you're getting 100% success rate on clients accepted to clients closed, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's not, it'd be pretty close. Like, I bet you that our listings signed to listings sold would be above 95%.
Amazing.
And I bet you our buyers signed at first meeting would be over 80%.
Also amazing.
And our buyers under agreement buying property would also be over 95%.
Yeah. Excellent. So that means you're doing so much good work on the front end that you're either working with the right people at the right time, or you're filtering out the people that are just not aligned with your business. You're obviously educating them up front, which is amazing. So you get to the accepted offer condition point, and that's where transaction management comes in. So this is every step from when subjects get removed all the way to when the house closes. And usually this is the one that's more naturally high, because it's hard for a deal to go off the rails at this point, but it's not impossible. And so we usually have a discussion around that. And then that last leads into post-sale service. So, Taylor, you and I would know this as the lifetime referral system from RRI land. But this is essentially like, how many of your clients in your database are either sending you referrals or repeating with you on an annual basis. And this is why it's a flywheel, is because as you generate your open house lead, that becomes a client that sells or buys a house that closes successfully. For every 100 people in this database, we know there's probably 10 to 20 deals a year. So this becomes essentially a thing that compounds on itself over time.
Mm-hmm.
Back to Andrew's or Taylor's first question, what would I go through with someone first? Exactly this exercise, whether you're making 100 grand a year or $1 million, because the ratios still make a difference. And usually we're able to pinpoint one area of weakness. If you had to guess, Andrew, lead generation, lead conversion, client experience, transaction management, post-sale service, which is the area most agents struggle in? What would you say?
Conversion. Yeah, they're terrible mostly. Like lead gen, it's one of those things where like if you throw money at it, you can get as many leads as you want. Like yes, a lot of people struggle with it, but it's not hard.
That's very interesting from your vantage point, because we all have 100 clients. I have 100 agents. You have 100 agents that are clients, these hypothetical numbers. 100% of your clients are investing in lead gen, I would imagine, because that's why they're your clients. Whereas from my vantage point, I would say 10% of my clients are probably investing money out of pocket into lead gen.
Yeah.
So from my vantage point, I would have said the one that most agents fail on is the lead gen. And so it's interesting to hear your perspective say conversion, because everyone.
But I find every time they start getting leads, they realize the bigger challenge is lead conversion.
Yeah.
So even if they think their problem is lead gen, it's still usually conversion.
And so usually we would take a 6 to 90 day focus on each of those parts of the wheel. And we would work on trying to increase our percentages or efficiencies on each one. I think it's Stephen Covey's highly effective habits or something like that, where he says like first things come first, like things that matter most shouldn't come at the mercy of things that matter least. So everyone wants to go to client experience because that's the fun part. But the truth of the matter is, if you don't have a client to give an experience to, the whole model breaks anyways. Yeah. And so I'm pretty deliberate. And like in the case of Taylor, I probably wouldn't start at lead gen because it sounds like they've cracked the code on that. I would want to shine a light on some of the other areas to kind of understand like where might there be some energy slippage in this process. What's coming up for you, Taylor?
I mean, I'm curious, Taylor, what in your end, where you think you are for your business, like where you see the biggest ones. Would still say though, it's still more people because like I think your client experience, everything can always be improved, but it's pretty great. Then the next two are also pretty great from what I can, my vantage point.
Mhm.
So I think it's still optimizing lead gen and conversion for you more.
Yeah, I think so basically what I built on the back end is an experience that delivers a ratio of about 90% five-star reviews to experience.
Mhm.
So we know that the experience delivers, and then we're able to convert a little over 10% of our database as far as past clients
So
going
100
again.
people is 10 deals.
Yeah, going again or referring.
Yeah.
So I think that we could work on getting to 20% there.
Yep.
Uh, then on the front end, it's basically conversion capacity because last year was a rebuild year for me. So I have two agents that are under their first year with us, and I have myself and Tony, who collectively like we've sold about 100 properties this year.
Mhm.
Um,
What do you do in your spare time?
what's that?
So what do you do in your
This.
spare time?
I look
100
for
homes.
pick, I look for
100.
pick, I look for pickup meetings. I
Uh,
so so really I think that part of it is optimizing for my new part of like my new role in my team, which
Mhm.
is like team captain. I want to get us the best listings. I want to compete with the top agents in my city to do that. And the kind of marketing associated with that, but I still have to get like finish retooling. So there's still a few management things that are on my desk. I probably need a licensed assistant, which I will build as we do higher production.
Mhm.
But you know what? I'm actually pretty happy with things. Like last year, we sold 165 houses with a very finished machine, right? Like we were forced registration focused. I was out of production. Last year was like a good warm up lap for me as far as getting back into production. And then this year we rebuilt the machine, and I think that we're going to finish the year less than 15 houses off of last year, with less people and higher profit.
Well, and you know the part that I don't know that we'll end up exploring this, but like you know the part that I'm very passionate about is I'm very lucky that I get to work with a lot of successful people at a starting point. Like when people hire a coach, whether the investment is $800 a month, $2,000 a month, like you're already at least level one or two successful, right? So for me, it's like I don't enjoy the newer agent side of things as much as I do working with the 5 to 10 year people who have built their business up to a point off of, I call it the blue collar business plan: work harder, work longer, repeat. Right. And that's a very effective model until the model ends up becoming the reason that you no longer grow and you actually, in some cases, start shrinking. Right. And that's where the idea of optimizing comes in. And so, you know, when you say you had a successful year, of course you did. And I also think one of my favorite parts to introduce early in the process is like, well, how are we going to define success? Because 160 deals a year on a second failing marriage with high blood pressure and estranged from kids and having no joy and no hobbies is not a successful year, in my opinion. Thankfully, none of those things apply to you. And I know you have a full life. Okay, maybe you need a hobby, but other than that, I think that to me is often lost in these conversations. Is like, well, like what is our triple bottom line, or what are our criteria? And once a quarter, I do a book club, and my most recent book is one of those that really left an impression on me, which is the Sahil Bloom's 5 Types of Wealth. And there's a concept in that book that I keep thinking about, and he refers to it as anti-goals, which honestly is just a pop culture sugary way of saying boundaries. But the idea is, Andrew, it's like I want to sell 100 homes this year is the stated goal, but the anti-goal is, but not at the expense of missing my kids' sports, and not at the expense of missing date night with my wife, not at the expense of being at my church on Sundays, or working out in the, like, you get to define what those things are. But I find that such a more interesting problem to solve, because the idea of like helping someone sell 100 homes, like, yeah, we can do it, but it's kind of boring. Helping you sell 100 homes while being happy and a well-adjusted human who's contributing to your society and feels good when your head hits the pillow, that's a way more interesting problem to solve.
I think
And
that's
frankly, not easy to do.
I think that's always the goal, is that people will come to a coach and say, I want to be successful, but their definition of success is the first thing that's off, right?
Yeah.
But measuring
Well,
that overall happiness.
yeah, it's not their fault though. Like the entire industry is we are in this like self-grandizing, like we literally and hey, for the record, I am a broker owner of a Remax franchise, and I think that Remax is one of the biggest perpetuators of this mindset. We give out awards for every income level, etc. But so do a lot of the other companies. Like we reward and recognize people based off of deals and dollars. And
Because
what's
it's more
worse,
objective though. Like there's
it's in a yeah, until Apple
it's
Watch
harder
comes out
to
with
reward the
a
other
real
stuff.
a real
If
time.
it was up to Andrew and
Yeah.
I, it would be about
Yeah.
profit.
Yeah,
It would
and
be
Craig.
about like there
So
would be some more measurement there.
Yeah.
yeah, like this is one I appreciate with Craig, who just commented in the comments there about net profit. Because like, I mean, he is probably one of the most impressive from a straight net profit perspective that I've seen, or for people actually willing to share their numbers. Um, so there's another question here though. For this one's actually looks like for Taylor. If you don't have an admin, who takes care of CRM maintenance, contracts, documents for so high a sales volume?
And please, if you wouldn't mind putting in your name, we just have initials here, and I'm glad that you joined us. And also, it helps if you tell us where you're from.
He's from
So,
Montreal. Follow-up comment, Montreal.
oh
Still waiting
yes,
on the name
there you
though.
go.
Says hi,
All
Braden.
right. Well, thanks so much
Check
for
your
joining
email.
us.
Oh,
And so basically, I'm going to talk about this on timeline. So
Yeah.
when I was new, I did it all myself, and then my wife helped me once I became overwhelmed.
mhm.
But one of the things I made that ended up being a good decision is I never paid myself more than 45% of any commission I made. So by doing that, when I got to the point where it was year like one for me, I had 39 deals, and I think at that point someone should be supported by at least part-time admin. But the next year I got to 60, and I don't know many people would be able to do 60 transactions a year without admin. I know that it's possible. I know there are some people that do it, but it would be a very difficult run. Luckily, at that point, I was able to get a part-time admin, but then in the first 6 months of my third year, I did 60 transactions in 6 months.
Mhm.
So at that point, it was all of my time and no balance. So all the things that, like when I came in, I didn't ask the right question either. I wanted to be successful, and if somebody would have told me at what cost,
Mhm.
I'd be like, I don't know what I'm willing to pay yet. Let's figure it out. And so I went way past, and I actually kind of like this idea. Like, be a monster. Show up. If you want to be one of the best, show up that way. And then dial it back, right? But you have to do that before you start burning relationships around you. Because the likelihood that you will ever get to the top, like 2% in, the real estate, being a well-adjusted person is very low likelihood.
So can I yes and that? Yes, and what I have learned working with, so for the record, I in my brokerage, like the MLS awards, recognize the top 10%, 20, and 30 with gold, silver, and bronze every year. And half of my office places in the top 30% of the MLS. Like it was more than half this last year. And there are a lot of agents who make $500 to $1 million a year that if you gave them truth serum and asked them, are you happy being in the top 5% or the top 2%? They would tell you no. And so I think that's the challenge, is like, I agree, you have to be somewhat unhinged to get to that level. And then it's when you get there, and don't get me wrong, I'm not throwing shade at that either. Like if that is what brings you joy and that is your life's work and your purpose, get it. What I am trying to put some pressure on is don't have lazy goals. I don't have copy and paste goals. I saw Taylor, he hit Titan. Taylor is cool. I want to hit Titan. And it's like,
ChatGPT, give me goals for this year.
give me goals. Like whose goals are yours is one of my
Yeah.
favorite things to ask people. right? Because it takes, it's scary to do that self-reflection and realize what actually matters to you. Literally
Yeah.
just this morning, I said no to a speaking opportunity. Maybe I can refer it to you, Andrew. For Remax Turkey reached out to me.
Oh, I would
Awesome.
do that.
Yeah,
I'd
I
go
would do
Turkey.
it too. But I was fortunate enough to be booked for Remax Europe in Portugal 2 weeks before that. And guess what? I
Oh,
have
so
the
late
time
October
available.
probably won't work.
No, it's no
Mhm.
first week in November. And
Yeah.
and you know, I'm honored, honestly, to that for that opportunity, but it doesn't align with my goals, which is to be close to home with my wife. We just got a puppy. I'm already gonna miss a big part of her development. And so there's a quote that I think about a lot. It's like your values aren't your values until they cost you something. So you can tell me all day long that your family values, but if you're missing little league and birthdays, or you're physically there but not mentally there on those things, because that's bullshit. It's not your
No.
values.
Well, that's what I always say is like for me, like picking events, the first thing we check with, and I made this mistake once, which is why it's always the first thing I check. Not on a kid's birthday.
Not on a kid's birthday.
Like
Yeah.
I met like I have an event in November I'm going to, and I was like, oh no, I'll be there pretty late on the first day because I got to put my daughter to bed because it's her birthday. Then I'll come out.
There you go. Love that.
Yeah.
And I like
Um,
how everybody draws their own boundaries, in different ways.
well,
Yeah.
Me,
that's just it. That's
I
why.
really
Yeah.
felt like becoming a father woke up the provider in me. Like I do like to, like I tell my kids all the time. My job is to know shit and to fund your experience. Your mom delivers your experience. And that's like really Jamie is so my wife, she is so well set up for this. And it's not like I'm absentee. It's more so that we find this like real divide and conquer, and everybody has to look at it their own way and also get feedback for the people from the people that are important to them.
Yeah.
So I like how we're talking about that, and I like how you were saying like, are your goals borrowed secondhand from someone else?
Copy
Because
paste.
if you grab this sweater and you're not going to grow into it, it's just not your sweater. And
So
also be aware that when you set really high goals, it is actually an agreement with yourself to be unfulfilled until you get there. So beware. Like you have to be cautious about where you throw yourself.
yeah, and Taylor, you said something earlier about like in your first couple years throwing yourself at it. I also think just to recognize that that's part of the challenge is that, as we know, this is a hyper competitive industry, and so is all small business, like entrepreneurship. It is a, you got to know what you're signing up for. So at the expense of sounding like a hypocrite, I do think you have to work a little unhinged in the first 2 to 3 years, maybe 5, to get established. And the challenge is, depending on the whatever study you read on habits, whether it's 21 days, 66 days, 90 days, let's agree that 5 years of doing something one way, those grooves are deep, right? So if you are used to working 60, 70 hours a week or always being available because that's how you broke through, I get it. It's hard to unwind that. But real estate and business in general has this habit of filling every nook and cranny if you allow it to. And so this is where I think, when you reach that point where all of a sudden you're attracting more than you're chasing, how long do you keep working the old model before you recognize that old model is no longer serving you? Greg McEwen talks about it in I think it's Essentialism. It's like the paradox of success. The things that cause you to become successful end up becoming, quite ironically, the exact same things that hold you back. I had a situation recently with an agent in my office where his value proposition was he answers the phone on the first ring, which when he was brand new,
Hard to keep up.
was awesome. It was awesome. Like he came out of the gates flying. He had a good network, and his goal was to answer the phone on the first ring. And about 9 months in, he booked me for a consult, and we sat down. And honestly, like he was a shell of himself, and it was putting friction on all of his relationships. And he wasn't able to play sports as much anymore. And he's answering, like, literally what I called him, and he was at dinner with his family, and he took the call, and I was like, "What are you doing?" Right? But that was his value prop. And so we worked on it. He got a part-time assistant, became full-time, and was able to reorient his life in within 2 years. But a lot of people will stay in that zone for a decade. right? And he was
Yeah,
able
well,
to address it
availability is every new agent's best ability,
100%.
right? But
So
eventually you have to develop enough value that you kind of work your way up. And my favorite example is I was reading one of those crazy magazines like Le Monde, where they talk about yachts. And they had an ad for a watch. And when you looked at this watch, you kind of did a double take because the diamond on it was so large you couldn't see any of the numbers.
mm.
And at the bottom of the ad, it said, when you're this valuable, they'll wait.
Yeah, I love that. I need to see you copy that ad because you're absolutely right. We tried to shift his value prop from availability to outcomes. These are the outcomes I get for my clients. This is why I'm worth the wait,
Yeah.
right?
And you have to build that in. Andrew always talks about like making the path to the luggage longer to decrease the amount of complaints you
Complaints.
get in
Yeah.
an in an airport. And the same thing here is people will actually go through some discomfort if you let them know what they're in for,
Yeah,
right?
I can't remember what book it was, but they were talking about examples of just exactly that, where there's like these little subtle changes that include that improve client experience. Like in subways, apparently having a little LED panel that shows where the train that you're waiting for is in
As it
relation to
stores.
where you are, dropped the number of complaints like off a cliff. So
Yeah,
just
it's like
sitting
a
there
loading
waiting
bar,
for it versus, I mean,
right?
think about like your Uber experience, right? You call a cab and you're like, when's the cab getting here? Versus like, it's almost like weirdly satisfying
It's
to
the
watch
unknown.
this human drive to you.
Yeah,
You're
it's
like
like the
watching it on the
Domino's
app.
delivery thing. It's in the
Yeah.
oven, even though that's complete BS. It's just like a load graphic that is not impacted by anything they're actually doing.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
Craig Knopfler is queuing a question for me. He was talking about how figure out what you need to live and pay yourself a salary, right? And I think that that comes in conjunction with give yourself quarterly bonuses of profit so that you can,
yeah.
pay yourself overage. But when you're talking to people about how they pay themselves, this is kind of a hot topic with realtors because they pay themselves more than they make in many cases.
So we have a process for this. And I'll admit it is kind of pulls from my passion for the life coaching side of things. But what I realized was a lot of people, well, actually, I'll show. So about a couple years ago, I had a realtor come into my office. It was around MLS award season, which is like it's a weird time because everyone's like thanking their clients, like the Academy Award. I'd like to thank my clients and my mom and the real estate gods for this award, and I'm gonna dedicate like cool. But it's also very triggering because people who got silver who wanted gold, or people who got bronze who wanted silver, or worse, people who didn't even get bronze. It's like it's honestly like one of the most depressing weeks for Vancouver Island realtors is when the MLS awards get announced. And so I had an agent come into my office and he was like notably pissed. And he's like, I only got whatever, I think it was bronze. And he shares an office with another realtor who I happen to know quite well. And that agent got gold. So the delta was between 30% to top 10%, right? And he's like, well, I know this person. He doesn't work that hard. He's never in the office. He's like giving me all the reasons why, like, how not me? Why not me? Right? And I was like, well, have a seat. So I used to have this whiteboard and I mapped out, I'm like, okay, so this is what this person does. And here's their assistant and here's their ad spend and da, 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 da. And when I drew out the map of what this person does, the agent sitting in my office in this chair over here kind of leaned back and was like, huh, that's everything he does, hey? That seems like a lot of work. Yeah, I don't actually want to do that. And then left happy. It's the first time in my career I had someone come in, we changed nothing other than their perspective, and they were very satisfied with their business because this person has a great lifestyle, takes multiple vacations a year, is very involved in sports. And so like I think you have to recognize there's a cost to making money. And that's where I knew I needed to put a framework to this. So we have a 5-step framework. We refer to it as our financial fulfillment formula because we love alliteration. And it's essentially like, what is your ideal lifestyle cost? That's the first level. The second level is what are you saving for in the future, investments, etc. Maybe your kids' college. The third one is what is your taxes? What do you have to pay in taxes to be left with your zone 1 and zone 2? Andrew, what day is April Fool's for realtors? Because it's not April 1st.
What day
It's
is
the day they
April?
get their tax bill and they realize they underfunded it by a significant margin. I've been there. I've been
Oh, the
there.
amount of high producing agents I know who they had to change everything because they didn't save properly for it.
The number one attrition month for our coaching program is April.
I could see that. It makes sense. I didn't think, but yeah, no, that makes sense. I'd be
So
curious. I haven't tried that.
ideal
I should look that
lifestyle,
up.
future self,
Yeah.
taxes. Then from there, some type of giving back. That's the optional one, but I think it's important. Our communities support our geographically based businesses. I think we should be supporting back our geography. And then lastly, what's your ideal business? And so we literally spotlight each of these 5 areas, and it might take a couple sessions or a few weeks to really think through it. But once you have a mini target in each of those 5 areas, you add it together, and that becomes your goal. Because if your goal, if I say, hey Taylor, what's your goal for the year, and you say, I want to make Platinum Club, President's Choice, Screaming Eagle, Red Ruby, Double Diamond People's Choice Award, you're screwed. Because you might hit that award, but it doesn't actually mean that much most of the
Just
time.
reminded me, did you ever see the clip of Jim Carrey at the award show where he's just like, if you see this photo where he's like, this is me, Jim Carrey, two-time Golden Globe winner, here to try to be three-time Golden Globe winner, because then I'd be finally be enough.
Yeah.
But it's like the whole bit played on that, like, no awards ever enough.
No, and again, like I know I'm probably had too much caffeine, so I'm coming in a bit hot on this, but like I also think it's important to celebrate our success. Like it is good to take pause and acknowledge the growth and the progress, the sacrifice, the courage, all the things. But if that is the singular point of reference that our self-worth is attached to, or our worthiness as a business, like I can just tell you, I have a sample size of 300 realtors on Vancouver Island. It doesn't add up to a fulfilling career, right?
Yeah.
And so having that as a goal, what's weird is now when people we take through that process, those 5 financial steps, you might say, hey, what's your goal for the year? And they might have a really obscure number. Like it might be $437,698.25, which I tell them, don't be a psycho, round up, please. But they might say 435, right? Because living my ideal lifestyle cost me 100K after tax. Saving for my cabin in the woods is 25K a year over the next 10 years. I got to pay my taxes on that. And now there's a conversation here, of course, around being incorporated. And so that might move these zones up and down. So seek your accounting advice. But you do have to pay taxes at some point. What do you want to give back to your community? And lastly, how do you want your ideal business to look? Those are real, tangible things that allow you to create a target that's actually worth aiming at.
Hmm. I see what you mean. And I want to run through one more step, and that's like and we can use it as an example as well, but if you were to I think that most people that know you as a coach would say that Braden can basically help you turn what you see into what you do, like your ability to implement.
Hmm.
So right now, I am trying to improve the frequency that I do short form video.
Mm-hmm.
So when somebody comes to you with like just that like generic type of a statement, how do you work it out?
Through a lot of trial and error over a long time is how I've worked it out. And what I've learned is that focus is often more about subtraction than it is addition. So I talk to a lot of successful people that want to add the next thing to their business. And it's kind of funny because the track record is there. You're good at doing things. But I often think of ideas as investments. Like if I was your investment advisor and you said, hey, I've got $100,000, what can I invest in? Idea A is open houses stock, and idea B is short form content stock. And I've been investing in open houses for a long time, and it's given me a good yield. But we might measure those side by side and say, you know what? This one over here is only giving you 10%, and this one over here's got 30% upside. So let's eliminate the stuff that isn't the higher yield and reallocate it to what is. And so in that case, Taylor, like I would look at the things. The first thing I always do is time audit. Like let's look at your schedule. Let's look at what you are spending your time on, and then more importantly, it's not just time; it's also energy. right? I feel like that's the forgotten part of this, is like, if you ended up hating doing short form, I don't know, man. I don't, if someone actually hates the act of doing the thing, there's a difference between not enjoying something you're not good at, because we've all been there. But if you truly hated it, then I'd say, well, you know what, there's 100 ways to sell 100 homes. Let's find the way that's right for you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And, you know, we can go both ways on this. I can argue that upping your short form output is a very high leverage activity. There's no question. It has the opportunity to scale and get you in front of more people than you could in a one-to-one basis. But also, are we thinking like a job owner or a business owner? Because the job owner would be like, well, Taylor's the one who has to be on all the videos. But if Taylor doesn't either want to do it or like to do it, like, is there a way that we can do this where your business can have the same output, the same frequency of short form, but maybe it's not always you?
Yeah. So I think that that's great. So you're deciding whether I should do it. So we should measure this, adding this out at all. And then after that, it's like, why do you want to do it?
Yeah.
Do you like the activity of doing this? Is like this part of your entrepreneurial expression, or is this really like bottom line?
And then
And
from there, we
then,
build a system so that we can hopefully have it so that if you know, Pareto principle, if there's 10 steps to fully doing it, can we have you just do 2 of them? So as an
Mhm.
example, like, we run a sales meeting at our office, that's I've been told is a very high level sales meeting, as far as what speakers have seen across Canada. And that meeting takes about 10 hours a week to produce, from pre-production, booking people, scheduling, running the meeting, making the slides, all the post stuff that we do, etc. And I used to do all of that by myself. And I could say both things can be true. It's the highest leverage activity for me to give value to my paying customers, and it's killing me. Tuesday nights, I can't sleep because I have anxiety, because Wednesday morning is the meeting. And Wednesday morning, I'm usually skipping my morning routine because I'm making slides last minute because I was doing everything myself. I realize that there's only truly one step out of the 10 steps that I should be doing. They're in my sweet spot. I enjoy it. I'm good at it. It grows my business. And that's hosting the damn meeting. Everything else that happens before and after that, I'm either not good at, I don't enjoy, and it doesn't grow my business. And so that's where I hired a VA specifically for 10 hours a week just to be my sales meeting coordinator. And so, Taylor, I would throw it to you and say, like, you know, a traditional employer would be like, oh, I already have an assistant. Maybe I'll just get my assistant to start editing short form. And I'd say, no, let's think like a modern employer, fractional employment. Let's hire a short form expert that only shows up in your world 5 hours a month or 2 hours a week. They own that system, and you show up and do the highest leverage piece of that system, and the rest of it just flows from there.
Mhm. Yep. I think that that's really good. I like
Thank
the
goodness.
way
I
that
was literally
you,
making that up. So I did that sound intelligent?
I sounded so
yeah.
smart by the end of that. I impressed
Oh my
myself.
God. Thank you guys.
No, I like
It's
the
funny, I
idea
actually
of,
did that more this
I
year.
don't count the steps enough.
There's always 10
No
How
steps.
many
one
steps does
maps it
this
out
take?
in general,
Yeah.
though, right? Like, we've talked, like, I think we've done this, and like you've seen it in backgrounds of other. I've been when I didn't have this stuff behind me, or like I have like mapped out with post-it notes an entire process, start to finish. More people just need to do that for the different parts of the business, like using what was Braden showing before, like lead gen, start to finish, lead conversion, start to finish, client service, start to finish, map out each individual touch point, because then you can put metrics to it. You can figure out how to make it better. You can teach someone else to do it when you're like, here's the step you have to own or
So
steps.
yes, so this is like a definitely a heavily borrowed concept. So I'm
Yeah.
not for a second suggesting that I have come up with this. I've stole it from 50 people. I've codified it in my world as the breakthrough method, but it's literally the idea that it's eliminating the unnecessary, it's automating the repetitive, and it's delegating the draining. And it's doing it in that specific order, because automating something that could be eliminated is foolish, right? Like, why would you automate something that's useless, right?
One of the
So,
things
go
that you
ahead.
mentioned when you were saying that is like, where do you create value in this, and does it actually grow your business? Because if short form doesn't grow my business and I'm incurring costs not to be in the rest of the steps, well, now we're in real trouble.
Hmm. And of those 3 steps, the one I get booked to speak on most is the delegate, because everyone wants to learn about VAs, and I love talking. But the one that's actually my favorite of the 3 is eliminate the unnecessary. The amount of things that we do out of just inertia or people pleasing, or, we've always done it before that way. Like it's amazing how many things where I go, well, if you just stop doing that, do you think anyone would notice? And more often than not, you stop doing the thing and no one notices, and you go, holy crap, why was I doing that for so long? I see we got a question. How tight are we for time? I know it's an hour long.
So
we're going to wrap
an
up.
after show.
Anybody who's in the audience right
Nelson,
now,
Amanda's laughing
stay
right
for
here
a
at your
few
comment.
Hey, Amanda.
That was Braden. He said hi.
okay,
Nelson had a comment in the thing, in to hosts and panelists, that he says he likes Amanda way more. Amanda runs a lot of the ads for his listings and kills it, so I get it. I like her more than me too.
I'll get on that bus.
Yeah. I would
she's
third
great.
that. I would third or fourth.
So we got 3 votes. I guess that's 4 votes now for and Craig, Amanda over. It's great. So next week Amanda's going to be hosting for me.
I can't handle that. I can't handle that kind of heat. Andrew, you got to stay here with me.
Good luck. We'll have her interrogate you from her parole officer days.
Well, anybody who is joining us on the recording, the laughter and fun stops here for you. But next time you can join us on Zoom, head to realestatemagazine.ca. You can find our show. The leads are shit. And then we'll see you next time. And otherwise, we are now going to end the recording and we're going to be heading into the after show. Those people, including Craig. Yes, we're going to bring Craig with us to the after show. See you.